Goddamn YouTube. You say I'm live, but I'm not broadcasting. Wait a minute. Oh, there I am. Fair enough. This is just going to be fucking boring if it's me. I'm not nearly drunk enough to be interested. Wow, is this crappy ass mic that sensitive? Holy shit. Wow. An offer to come in and porn bomb or snipe me. And no takers. Kind of sad. I just hadn't done one in a while, and I thought maybe somebody would come. Supposedly, I have friends all over the world, even in the fake place called Australia. I installed that cameraman app thing to the Hangouts, and I just wanted to see how that would work. I've got 2 checked yes and 1 checked no, but I've never used it before. Is my microphone working, Savella? Ah, okay. Gotcha. Okay, cool. I don't know. I'm watching it, and you're watching it, and somebody else is watching it. I don't know who that third person is. Ah, they're gone. I figured nobody'd come in. I just did it because I was bored, and I'm not drunk enough to go to sleep yet. Oh. Oh, come on, Warning. Where are you? I'm right here, man. What? What? Come at me, bro. Come on. Fucking asshole. Part of me hopes that Warning is a fucking Poe, but part of me also believes he's that fucking stupid. That whole thing in Red's channel today, that was just hilarious. Well, how can you prove that the Earth's not flat? Because we fucking taken pictures of it from space that proves it. Well, do the stars move up and down? No. No, not unless something radically changes with the star itself. As you're watching them move across the sky, no, they do not move up and down. Fair enough. You're exactly right, Sabella. And the funny thing is, I took my mom out to dinner tonight, um, and like right when I got home and fired up the computer box and got on the interwebs, logged into YouTube, and came in like right as Warning was saying my name. Well, you sound like Clockwork Rex trying to explain the cosmic microwave background radiation. And that's when, yeah, I was like, oh, it's on now. I mean, I came in at exactly the right moment because I heard him say something about a protractor. And I was like, wait a minute, is that Warning? And then when he said my name, I was like, yeah, that's fucking in the morning. Here we go. No, no. He's not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree by a long shot. Well, whoever was here before is back. I got 3 people watching now. Come on in, morning. The link's at the top of the live chat. Well, what I don't get about people who read the Bible is you've got obvious metaphors in there, and they want to take them literally. And then you've got obvious literal things in there, and they want to take them metaphorically. It's just confusing to me how they can do that. Damn it, I coughed and burped at the same time. That shit was painful. I've read Job. I haven't, I mean, I got a Bible sitting here, but I mean, I haven't read the whole book of Job for a long, long time. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So basically, the angels and the demons were reporting back to God to say, more or less. Now, when you talk about apocryphal texts, are you talking like the Book of Thomas and the Book of well, actually, there was a Book of Judas and a Book of Mary Magdalene. I think that was one. I know Thomas and Judas were books that were left out of the official King James version or the Council of Nicaea version. Well, join the hangout, Neil. Shit. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I knew that they cut out like a bunch of books at the when they had that Nicene Council. They were like, we want these books because they're consistent to what we believe, and everybody else can fuck off. So Nim was the one watching. Well, hello, Nim. Like I said, there's a link to the hangout at the top of the chat. I've got that cameraman doohickey app running, so if you come in, just message me, I guess, in the live chat. Because me and Sibylla are actually having a decent conversation about the Bible. She believes, I don't believe, but we're having a civil, decent conversation about it. Oh, fair enough, Neil. Fair enough. Well, okay. From what I've read about the fall and Lucifer being cast out of heaven, a third of the angels that he took with him came willingly. Another third of them came begrudgingly, and the last third of them were just pulled down there because they weren't strong enough to resist. They went unwillingly, basically. At least that was what I interpreted from it. I could be wrong. Oh, that sucks, Neil. Around me, well, between like 5 and 9 o'clock, I have DSL because I live in the middle of fucking bumfuck nowhere, and between 5 and 9 o'clock, mine is shit too. So I feel your pain. I am like Crom on his mountain with shit internet. Oh yeah, in the end, yeah. Didn't I hear you say somewhere, Sibel, that you were like Catholic, or am I thinking of somebody else? I'm probably thinking of somebody else. Okay, fair enough, Sibylla. Fair enough. I was raised a primitive Baptist, if you've ever heard of that. You are the Bible scholar, so I will take your word for that. Well, okay. Well, wait a minute. Hang on. If they're gloomy pits of darkness, how can there be a lake of fire? Wouldn't that make it bright? Not trying to start anything. I'm just asking. I think a lot of people deliberately misinterpret it. Like that Matt guy that was on Skylar's channel that almost got him fucking banned. Or who else? Oh well, the whole CCP crew. Um, yeah, and Warning and the dude you're talking about. What was it? Seek the Truth or something like that. Standing for truth. Excuse me. How can you stand for something when you don't even know what the truth is? Oh, and it was Nim. You're right. It's funny. Warning said in Red's hangout earlier today. Oh well, I try to be cordial and get along with people. That's a fucking lie. Oh yeah, that's just outside of Jerusalem, isn't it? The hill of Gehenna where they used to dump all the trash. Fair enough, Nim. Sure they can. Or was it a pit? I think there's a hill called Gehenna outside of Jerusalem. I don't know. Geography's not my thing. Astronomy and physics, that's what I know. Well, I like to think I have at least half a brain that works well anyway. No, I had heard that now that you've said something about I heard about them burning garbage in a place they called Gehenna. I swear it's like a hill, what they would call a mountain in Jerusalem, but it's a hill, is what it is. Oh, Jesus. Okay, fair enough. I can see why. Shit, my bad. I thought I muted. Fuck. Apologies. Apologies. Hope I didn't blow anybody's ears out. I thought I clicked the mute button, but I didn't. Let's see if I can get some Discord fuckers in here. Oh, he pretends to be a preacher. Well, that's interesting. I actually have an uncle and aunt who are strict New Testament people, and he has been a preacher for oh shit. I think he was even a chaplain in the Navy way, way, way back then. And I'd argue with the Bible about him all the time. Give me a sec. Let me unmute you. I've got my cameraman thingy going.
No.
There you go. Okay.
Give me
Just
a
us
second.
for right now. about chat.
So who do you invite?
Invited McGinnis and Bull and SO and who else did I invite? All the regular, usual people from Discord.
Yeah. So what's up?
Nothing. I'm just chilling and having a couple of beers and
Thought you'd have a get together.
well, I'm trying. We'll see. So, what did you think of the little bit of playtest we did?
It was pretty messy first time around.
Well, I figured it would be.
Yeah. I mean, that's not D&D is a complicated game in and of itself, especially when it's kind of a, shotgun session.
Oh, exactly. I knew it'd probably get messy like that. That's why I was just like, y'all argue the rules all you want to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that freaking that rune on the floor was kind of like a personality test for people.
Oh yeah, that's why I made it. I
Yeah.
mean, I've had that dungeon since. Oh my god, I made that dungeon when I was like 22, 23. And yeah,
Mhm.
that's the whole thing. You walk in that first room and you've got the desk and the chair, which hasn't really got shit on it because all the paper's done molded away and whatever. But you've got that rune on the floor beyond the gate and you don't know what the fuck.
Mhm.
You know it's
No, but
magic. You know it's
no.
magic.
Well, you know it's magic, and you know it may not be a trap in the sense that it's going for sure to be dangerous. It's just that it's a trap in the sense it's probably one way.
Hmm.
Personality test because you want to see who goes first without even really putting too much thought into it. And Look a Pig, after Look a Pig went, that was like, yep, I'm not surprised he was the first.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either.
No. But once Wake Up did it, it's just like, okay, that's almost half our party. We're either going through this thing, or we're just going to be fumbling around in a a fucking empty room. So
Yeah, that's like, what did I say it was? 20 by 20 or something like that. I mean, it wasn't very big.
no, and apparently no entrances or exits or whatever.
Oh, hey, Bull showed up. Hang on,
Yeah,
let me unmute you, Bill. I got my cameraman thingy going so I don't get porn bombed. And you're shown.
he looks still muted to me.
Yeah, because I have to unmute myself too.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, I just figured I'd do a late night hangout. I'm having a few beers, and it's Saturday night, and went out and had a good time with my mom, and we went to get something to eat and all that good shit. So,
Well, there you go.
Technically, it's Sunday morning.
Depends
God
on where
damn it.
you're at.
Well, we're on the East Coast, so he's technically correct for us anyway.
No, yeah, he's correct by your guys' location. Technically, I'm
Well,
right too. Whatever.
Technically, it's 5:00 somewhere all the time. So
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
wait,
I'm
that means I
saying
need another beer.
right here it is 11:08. So I'm just saying technically in that conversation, it
well,
just
you're on
ultimately needs relative.
you're on the West Coast, so
Yeah,
Oh, are you? Okay, that's why the time zone's so fucked up.
nah, Washington, but close enough.
I didn't say you were in California. I didn't call you a goddamn dirty hippie. I mean, come
I
on
thought
now.
you said Oregon.
No, I said
Okay,
West
then I
Coast.
misheard you. I misheard you when you said
now,
that.
see, Steve's the one in California.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle's out here on the East Coast with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem with the show and them talking over each other and shit. Like it just you got California connecting to Florida, and then North Carolina connecting to Florida, And so it has to literally come here before it goes up there and vice versa.
Yeah, that's all the delay and shit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fun.
I thought I'd pop in and say hi, but I'm actually really tired.
Fair enough.
Gosh forbid they actually warned me that they're going to do a stream in the middle of fucking Saturday.
Yeah.
I stayed up late.
Really?
Yesterday. Yeah.
They didn't even fucking tell you? What?
Well, until yesterday. Yesterday I found out about it, but it was. I found out they were doing it, and I didn't know they were doing it today. I didn't put two and two together until he started sending me shit, and I'm like, you might have asked me before you scheduled something on the day we normally have off, basically.
Yeah, and at
Yeah.
like 6 o'clock too. Yeah. Well, 6 o'clock our time.
It was actually 4 o'clock, but yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was 4 till. I think it ended about 6.
Oh,
And not that I mind being on camera either, but it was just. It's like
Sudden.
why you could have warned me that this was happening, and
Yeah, no, that seems like just something that should be better planned. And
if you're
yeah,
gonna do something on my day off, let me know you're planning it. Because
yeah.
if I actually get a job, I'm not going to be able to do that kind of shit at the drop of a hat anymore.
Yeah, no, and they need to. Well, that and it's a respect thing because if this is your career, this is your source of income, your job, be professional. Bottom line, that's the bedrock. That's the freaking end of the conversation. Be professional. Let your crew know what you're planning, what you want to do. End of.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
If this is a freaking hobby to you, I could see people being a bit fast and loose. That's
But this is supposedly Kyle and Steve's job.
exactly my point.
And theoretically, it could be my job if I didn't owe. Oh, speaking of that, my ex decided to write me an email saying she was going to go to the courts. I'm like, fine, go to the courts. You realize that if you do that and I end up in jail, it's just going to take you longer to get your money. And not to mention, I will not go to jail for her. There's other shit that will happen before I go to jail for her.
Exactly.
Not the least of which involves me using my passport to get the fuck out of this country.
There you go.
Disappear into Romania. Yeah.
Not looking to get involved in Russia. Sorry.
No, Romania. That's where Dracula is.
I know where Romania is.
Well,
Close enough to Russia.
Yeah.
It's close enough to Russia. Yeah, exactly.
Also, when you think about Russia right now, I think less than ethical possible expansion. I think China's the same way, personally.
Well, I mean, China's kind of approaching it a certain way when it comes to Africa, for example. It's not altruistic, let's put it that way.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Let's send all our women there to pave the way so we can reteach these people that have no there's people still in Africa fighting over little tiny pieces of land.
Mm-hmm.
If China goes in there, they don't give a shit.
Yeah. They're really.
They've got the population to take the continent too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Oh yeah. No, that fucking India. You could say the same thing about fucking India. Like,
Well, I wouldn't.
they
I
just don't
wouldn't.
have the military.
Yeah, I was going to say India just doesn't have the tactics or wherewithal to do it. But
No, they
China,
well, I think the biggest problem with India, I think, is they don't have the training, and I'm pretty sure they don't have the fucking food to keep people like fed and healthy in a big enough army to invade Africa.
well, yeah, I mean, they could barely keep their own country fed.
Yeah,
Like, there's so many problems in India that are just related to sheer poverty. Which
yeah.
is ridiculous because they have the resources, they just don't know how to use them correctly.
And, that's a really crazy sentence in the 21st century that you could have areas that have the resources, but you could say don't know how to use them correctly. That's fucking
Well,
crazy.
and Africa's the same way.
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
Like,
I
like
completely get that. It's just it's one of
they're
those things that occurs to me that you have these places with all of this, natural wealth that they can't use properly, and it's just a shitty situation that we put ourselves through, in my opinion.
well,
But
uh, I mean, you look at what happened with Sierra Leone and
yeah,
the diamond industry. Like, okay, you've got this business in the world basically that makes these rocks that they've got plenty of these rocks, but once you go in there and try to start mining those rocks, you get a bunch of gangster mafia people taking over the damn country. They call them the RUF.
hmm
Yep.
And
What is that country along the coast of Africa where you can walk along the beach and pick up diamonds?
that's Sierra Leone. That's exactly
Is
what
it?
I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But if you go there and pick up diamonds, you will get fucking killed by the.
Oh yeah, they will kill
hmm
you for those diamonds. And they would conscript children and give them drugs to get them hooked into working for them and shit.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Hang on, let these two people in.
Who we got?
Got Killer and got No
No
Clip.
clip.
David. No clip. Okay.
If either you porn bomb me, I will find you because I have a particular set of skills.
No,
It's easy
no,
to
you
get rid
don't
of.
get to use that. You don't get to use that fucking line.
Well,
Howdy, y'all.
I'll just kick them out of the hangout if they start shit.
No, I'm a regular in the non sequitur show Discord.
Yeah, we know.
I won't start any problems.
How do I make you a mod in the hangout?
I don't know.
You go to the control room and then you see the little arrows next to everybody's names that point up and down. You can click that. It pulls down a menu. It says grant mods. McGinnis.
The McGinnis showed up.
What do you want?
I should eject him just on principle, but oh well.
That's not very nice.
Yeah, on principle. You mean on for being a dick.
Okay, I'm in
Hey
control.
guys, what's up?
Hey,
What is popping, my dudes? Yeah, I just got a new microphone, so I'm trying to figure it all out. Hopefully, it sounds good.
Sounds pretty decent to me. What?
yeah, I can hear you.
It's a Blue Yeti.
All right.
How's it going?
How's what going?
Oh, just life, the universe, and everything.
It is what it is. Nothing much has changed. I just came in to say hi until Clockwork could get some people in here. I gotta actually go because I am tired.
Okay. I didn't know we were doing a Saturday show today. I found out after the fact.
I almost found out after the fact, except for the fact that they need me. So don't feel bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, catch y'all gents later.
Take
All
care.
right.
Good one.
Rest, man. Good luck. Hope that you hear back about your job soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope I do too.
Get you some sleep.
Yep, definitely. Later.
Later.
Bye-bye.
So what is this hangout for?
It's just a hangout. We're bullshitting.
We're
And
just
if
talking.
Killer can get his mic working, he could join.
Is
Oh.
this like, are y'all live streaming this or is it just for us to talk?
Oh, I'm live streaming it, but I don't give a fuck because I'm not monetized. So
Oh, is it your channel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go subscribe to that.
Yeah. Well, if Killer gets their mic working, hopefully they'll not scream over top of everybody once they get their mic working.
Yeah, we've been having some issues with that. We were talking to him in Discord, and he kept yelling over us because we didn't agree with him on, AI. It was really bad.
What was his argument?
Yeah.
Well, he's arguing that we don't have the base foundation for general AI, which we do in the sense we have neural networks and
Yeah.
we have like the underlying base. There just hasn't been sufficient time or a sufficient interface. Like you would need essentially a robot that can power itself and interact with the same degree of senses as a human so that it has the time to learn to use those senses in the same way that you would train a baby, essentially. And we
Yeah.
have that code, but the limitation is processing power and battery power and all that kind of stuff. Coding wise, we have that. That's why we're able to get the machine learning to learn shit now that humans can't do.
Like you can have AI that'll diagnose brain ailments like Alzheimer's way ahead of what people can do,
Yeah.
and way more accurately.
So with a general purpose AI has the ability to solve more or less whatever problem's thrown at it, and it can learn what the problem is. That's not incredibly useful yet because we don't have an interface to make it useful, which is why we use narrow focus AI to solve specific problems that we don't excel at, like diagnostic problems or identification problems, things like this. Once we have the interface and we put that same sort of neural network to work, it will, as a result of the interface, develop a general AI. It just hasn't been done yet. Like this, even the most advanced robotics and things that we have in the world right now just simply don't have the fidelity of sensory data coming in a sustainable way for a sustainable period of time.
I mean,
essentially,
we have. Well, what I would say is that we have extremely specialized AI. It's a matter of putting it all together that makes general AI and then eventually advanced AI. We have the building blocks. It's just not the the actual product yet.
Which is what I said. I said we have all the Lego pieces. We just haven't assembled them. Like the ability to assemble them, part of it's being held back by technological limitations, not necessarily coding limitations, but like hardware. And part of it's being held back by legal limitations because one company has a patent on one type of thing and another company has a patent on another type of thing. And you're not allowed to just grab their shit and put it together without their permission. And not everybody's playing nice yet. But
yeah,
like arguably, all of the pieces for a general intelligence AI already exist in the same way that I can have a bike with its wheels and handlebars removed, all sitting in a room, and I can still say I have a bike, but I'm not going to be able to ride it. It's not going to function like a bike. We have a general AI. We just haven't put it together to function like a general AI. And really, the limitation at this point is just the time for people to assemble it.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
a
I get what you mean.
website. If I can find it, I'll maybe link it. It's where you can literally have a conversation with a robot, and it's so convincing that the people like if you don't tell them who they're talking to, then they'll literally think they're talking to a person because it's used neural networks and it's communicated. It's had enough experience communicating with thousands of people that it's basically mastered the art of the English language. So
Okay, I'd really like to see that link.
I think it's
because-
called. I think it's called like. It's like smart. I'll look it up. I'll see what I can find.
Smart
Yeah,
bot.
because
Yeah,
So-
something like that.
Hello, testing.
The problem with
Oh,
the
there you go.
right now is
No, it's called Clever
There we
Bot.
go.
stereo.
okay, one person at once.
It's
Oh.
called.
Hang on,
It's
let
called.
Killer check his mic real quick.
Testing. 1 2 1 2. Yeah,
We can
coming through
hear you.
nicely.
Got it.
Beautiful. It was because freaking Google Chrome was telling me that it wasn't allowing you access to my headset.
Oh, okay.
Top right hand corner, little tiny.
Yeah, I see the little camera.
Yeah, it didn't tell me that, and I'm like, you're kidding me. Anyway,
Well, you're
continue
in.
on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cleverbot.
Cleverbot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a weak AI.
yeah, it is because it doesn't have the ability to.
Solve every task that exists.
It's not even about the task solving. It's about the ability to carry out a non-linear conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
hang on.
I've
Also,
tried
Cleverbot
having
is
conversation with
context.
Cleverbot.
But Cleverbot
it-
is many years old. It hasn't been updated either. It's the same neural network that was in it when it
Yes.
started. So they haven't updated it with all the fancy gizmos and gadgets that we have here in 2018. And
Yeah.
So
sure-
what one were you originally talking about?
I was talking about Cleverbot.
So the thing,
I didn't hear that.
I said I was talking about Cleverbot.
Oh, yeah, no. Cleverbot hasn't passed a turning test for me. But go on.
So the thing that I'm trying to explain to them is that currently, yes, we may have the technology, but we still don't have the code we need to put into that technology to make it a strong AI. We don't have that base code. It's not about time. We still don't have the base code because we need a full baby's code
Not about the
to
base
make that
it's
code.
about the input.
Pardon?
We have the base code. We don't have the input and the time. The base
So-
code is the
No, no.
code that allows learning and associations to take place. We have that. What we don't have is that in a form factor that allows learning in a human way, right? It's like even if, okay, we know that dolphins are incredibly smart, and even if we figured out how to communicate specifically with a dolphin, language to a dolphin and a human wouldn't necessarily translate properly because the words that we need to describe certain things based on human experience outside of an ocean wouldn't make any sense within what a dolphin has experienced. And it would be extremely hard to convey. It's like trying to describe the sensation of color to a blind person, right? Like that's a hard thing to verbalize. In that same way, we don't have a computer interface that takes all of that in to a way where it can develop general intelligence yet, but the programming that underlies that process already exists.
Agreed.
Okay, I can agree to that. But again, it's the basic process. It's not that process that we need because we only have parts of it. We cannot put it together yet. That's the bit that we need to figure out because
That's
we're talking.
what we've been saying this whole time, and you've been arguing.
Yes, but you're saying that we have that figured out code already because I've been asking the question, do we have the strong AI code figured out? And you've been saying yes. To have the strong AI code figured out, which would mean we'd have to put that all together. Am I wrong?
Well, it's not like you can just put the code together and expect it to immediately be a strong AI. You would have to
I
develop
don't expect that.
experience.
I'm asking the same question again.
Is the finished product ready?
Is the finished product ready to be put into a computer so it can start learning? Thank you.
I don't know.
I think that the code is ready to be put into a computer. I don't think that we have the computer to put it into.
So
That's the
we've put the
problem.
code together and it's already ready to go for a strong AI. Okay?
We don't have the computer ready. That's the problem.
So what are we missing in the computer?
Probably,
We're missing a computer that's portable and has enough sensory inputs that it could actually experience enough that it could develop a proper neural
and
network.
it would need to have probably parallel computing abilities that account for things like quantum tunneling, which
And
if Dave was still here, he could tell you about that because he actually designs microchip processors. And there's problems when you get to a certain level, like a certain size,
Yeah,
microprocessors. But brains do that thing. The difference is where the brain itself is adapted to compensate for that. Computer chips are not. It's a hardware problem, right?
I've even heard people say that
Okay.
that the whole quantum tunneling thing could actually be an explanation for why humans can be so spontaneous.
Exactly.
But computers weren't adapted to that. As a matter of fact, quantum tunneling is a detriment to most computer processors because that's literally why Moore's law exists. Is once you reach that level, then you start getting to the point where electrons just jump the gates, and that.
So is it as far
Okay.
as what could be possible? Wait a second. As far as what could be possible, is it fair to say quantum tunneling could be the last venue of I'd say scientifically proven free will?
I mean,
I would agree to
I've
that.
heard that argument. Yeah,
I would agree to that.
We don't quite know the answer to that yet.
It's kind of a fuzzy one.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. That's
It may
the
be.
free will of the gaps. It might be the best way to put it.
It might be that you need a computer chip that actually has quantum tunneling randomly going off and compensates for it in order to have, say, a true
Spontaneously creative intelligence.
synthetic intelligence, like not
Now-
like you know what I mean, like in the sense that you also have like a free will component on top of general problem solving skills,
Now,
Yeah.
just before we
like
just before we
creativity.
just before we continue, I would like to define again a narrow and a weak-minded and a strong-minded AI. A weak-minded AI is an artificial intelligence that is focused on one narrow task.
And I understand that you can
Let me
read a
finish.
definition, but
Let me finish before you do anything. A strong AI is a machine with a consciousness and sentience and mind, or artificial general intelligence, a machine ability to apply intelligence to any problem. Now, by that very definition, in my mind, that has nothing to do with the ability to move around. Am I wrong?
the problem with the way that you're coming at this is you're boxing yourself in to narrow definitions that are based on current knowledge levels of certain things. And when
Okay.
these things are written down, they're written down not for people who are actually doing these sciences, right? Like if you talk to people who are actually
So-
studying,
Can you please describe what a strong AI is to me then? If it's not a conscious machine that has the ability to imply intelligence to any problem.
well, it doesn't
define
have to be
it.
any problem.
So
You can-
you're saying it doesn't have to be it cannot apply intelligence to any problem. So what would be
maybe
the
you
definition?
could make an AI that could attempt to apply intelligence to any problem, but it's probably going to fail at some of it in the same way that a human can fail at many
That's
problems.
still a no. Doesn't matter if they fail or succeed. The thing is, did they apply intelligence to any problem? It's nothing to do with fail, succeeding, moving, doing.
So if you could
about
create a
can they
neural
apply
network that can recognize a problem and
Yes.
attempt to solve it, then that would be a general purpose AI.
That would be a strong AI,
Or,
as long
yeah,
as it
strong AI.
also had a consciousness
Well,
But
or
Define
sentience and
consciousness.
mind.
The definition of consciousness is being able to recognize one's existence.
The capacity to feel, perceive, or experience subjectively.
I guess that's-
Subjectively.
Is that the Google's definition?
Yeah, so
Currently,
again, the
that's
issue
the
is if
general
you start talking about terms like consciousness or certain types of intelligence, if you start talking to this with computer scientists, or if you start talking to neurologists, or if you start talking to specific specialized fields, they're going to have much more specific, nuanced definitions than what you're pulling up in a Google search. And so trying to box it into this without you specifically having specialization in this area is why you're coming up with your own narrow view. You're applying narrow AI to this problem because all you're doing is formulating your answer based on a single definition and saying anything else that doesn't fucking follow this definition doesn't compute.
So, are you stating that a strong AI cannot pass the Truman test at the same time be a strong AI?
Turing test.
The Turing test?
The one that proves that you have a consciousness or sentience of mind.
No. Wait a second. Turing test does not prove
capable of passing the
anything.
Turing test, but is also a strong AI.
I think it's the Turing test. Is it the Turing test?
No, wait. Yeah, but the thing about the Turing test. Wait a second. Before you go on, a Turing test is whether or not you can convince convince a human that you are that you're a person. It doesn't actually have to prove
exhibit intelligent behavior or equivalent to
No. A Turing test is convincing you that it is also human. So, as an example, if you had
That's what I just said.
Yes. If you
but it
had
doesn't
a
prove that thing is
strong AI.
Yes.
If you had a strong AI.
Slow down, guys. Slow down.
Listen, if you had a strong AI and it was running inside of a box, and you turned on the box, and the human was sitting in front of the box and knew that it was dealing with a strong AI, okay, it would be likely unable to convince that person that it was dealing with a human, right? Because the human would know this was a computer. That would not negate the fact that it's a strong AI, okay? So the difference is when you lack the knowledge that something is a computer, it is able to fool you. And passing the Turing test doesn't require a strong AI. It merely requires humans to be consistently fooled. This can be done with a weak AI if it was done sufficiently.
But stop. You're missing the point of the question. I'm asking, can you have a strong AI that cannot pass the Turing test?
Yes.
Possibly.
Yes.
Sure.
So that means it would not be of a human intelligence.
No.
Because
that's not what's required for the Turing test.
Is a test of the ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable form of that of a human. Strong AI...
exhibit. It's not necessarily that it is. It just needs to appear to be.
In the same way that Cleverbot can trick people sometimes if they're gullible enough, and if you don't tell them that it's a computer into thinking that it's a real person.
Again, you're making it sound like it's one person doing this test that defines it.
It could be any person.
It could be any
many people.
Well, there are people who literally think that they're the only conscious mind. So,
well, they're stupid. But moving on from that one.
Yeah, it could be any person, but the point is, a Turing test is done case by case.
It's Turing.
Yes.
Turing test.
Turing. Okay. Yeah, but with that, and the other thing is, with a strong AI, a true AI, because I like the term true AI because it's the same thing, but not. A true AI would be able to make up its own thoughts. And a strong AI would be able to do the same, which means we'd have a conscious mind, which means I'll be able to ask it questions. Are you doing well today? And it
Can you
I would
make
almost
up your own
count.
Thoughts?
Huh?
Can you make up your own thoughts?
Yes.
No, that goes to a free will argument, because I actually don't think free will is, at least the way that it's defined by most people, is a legitimate thing. I think most of your actions are defined by your environment and the way that your past experiences.
Yeah, but
invent a new color for me.
What?
Invent a new color.
That's not a thing. That's like going and saying invent this.
Exactly. You don't
just because I can't do that myself doesn't mean I have no free will. I can invent time travel. I just don't know how.
It had nothing to do with free will. It had to do with creating your own thoughts. You don't have the ability to conceptualize something outside of a specific range.
No, I don't have a... No, because of the fact...
narrowed by your input sensory.
If I said to choose a number 1 through 10 and you picked 7, How do I know that you genuinely picked 7 just out of your own free will, or because maybe you were thinking of something like a movie and you thought of you thought of the number 7 because of something you saw earlier in the day or past experience?
Okay.
Would that
So
be
that's
free
just
will, or is
suggest-
that just
no,
you
that's just
recalling
suggested
past
input.
experiences?
That's
Yeah,
just
you guys are
suggestive
going
input.
down a
You're going
freaking pointless rabbit hole there, in my opinion.
exactly.
But I mean, go
I
on.
agree with that one. But with that, with you saying about colors, so you're saying that out of the 16,581,375 different possible combination of colors that we can perceive, sorry, 376, sorry, to correct myself there, that someone hasn't named a general concept of all those colors.
Well, I
No,
can't.
I don't
Well,
think that's
hold
what he's
on.
getting at.
Not what I'm saying.
Hold on.
That's
Hold
what
on.
I'm saying.
Hold on.
Because
I'm
there will be no
colorblind.
point.
I'm colorblind. I can't see
Okay.
all those colors, so I have
Yep.
no concept of the whatever trillion number you just quoted.
16,581,376.
I see nowhere
But
near
then,
that many colors.
see, here's the thing that I think David was trying to get at. So, do you know that there are animals that can see outside of our color spectrum?
Yes, like there's a
mantis
lobster that sees in the
Mantis shrimp.
spectrums of 12 colors.
Insects
Mantis
see in
shrimp.
ultraviolet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, the point is that there may be colors outside of there in that spectrum that we're
Yep.
not capable of perceiving, and
Correct.
trying to imagine what that color would be without having any frame of reference is what David is saying would be a direct correlation with free will.
We still
How would
have-
that directly correlate to free will, though?
we can
Explain
the-
to me.
we can
Explain to me
Let us-
why.
Shut up for a second, and we will.
we
Stop
can
Go ahead.
talking over each other because
Because-
nobody can understand.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. What you were saying before?
Yes. Well, be quiet, and I will. Look, we can augment our ability to sort of observe the effect of other colors, like ultraviolet or infrared and other things. That's not the same as perceiving those colors, because we're perceiving representations of the effect of those light frequencies within a spectrum of colors that we already have. Right? Like if you were say looking at ultraviolet and it appears purple through a special thing, you're still seeing purple. You're seeing the effect of something. You're not perceiving it. So something that can actually see that would have a very different experience. They wouldn't be seeing purple as we see it. They would be seeing a unique thing.
Okay,
So,
David, I don't think you're getting to the point.
You're going to the rabbit hole again. What
No,
does that
he's not. No, this.
do with free will?
I think I can explain it
Go ahead.
better if
I
you don't
think 'cause
mind.
I don't mind at all. As long as someone explains to me what has colors got to do with a rabbit hole, perceiving another person's perception of colors, seeing about free will. That doesn't make any sense to me. But go ahead.
we're not
Explain
talking about
what-
free will, but okay.
That's what I was
Okay.
talking about free will first. And anyway,
Well, we
continue
were
on.
talking about AI.
But we
So,
were, but
yeah, but then you brought up the whole color thing. You can't perceive a color, so
I didn't bring it up.
You know,
But anyway.
no, that's why I was talking to David, not you.
Oh, yeah.
Killer.
Sorry.
How we got to free will and the ability to have free will, and you couldn't perceive a color. Let me finish.
Yeah.
Outside, and the point is that you can't just make up an input that or an output of what you understand about reality based off of something that you have no frame of reference on. That being the case, all of your outputs are only a result of what you have in your head and your life experience and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So if you put in an input, our brains are just the most complex equation that we ever could conceive of. And
Yes,
that output is predetermined before you put in the input. It's like putting in a 1 and getting a 2 into a basic algebra problem. It's always going to be the same. So the idea is you don't have the ability to perceive something. You have no frame of reference that isn't in that equation, because that's all you really are. Now, where I think free will comes in, or could come in, is when things get complex enough that quantum tunneling has an effect on our brains, and it may not be that clear cut equation that I just described. It may or may not be, but we know that some equation to some extent exists in situations for sure.
And
like
I can agree.
The reason this comes back to AI is in the same way that we are limited by our sensory input to some extent with the solutions we come up with. The types of AI that we have are in turn limited by their sensory input, and we have things that are pre-codified through DNA and millions of years of evolution that get passed on, right? Like a baby's not a blank slate. There's certain things that are unlearned, but there's certain predetermined bits of code genetically that make things want to eat or avoid snakes, as an example. That seems to be hardwired for some reason.
I would strongly disagree with that statement, but continue.
Put a cucumber behind a cat, it'll freak.
Okay,
Yeah, but that's
hang on
for
a
the
second.
animals.
Hang on
I'm
a
referring
second,
to
Joey.
like.
Hang on a second. Hang on. Do you have to teach a baby to suck their mama's tit to get milk?
I can agree to that. I can agree you don't have
That
to.
is instinctual and hardwired.
I can agree to that, but
Do
I
you
was
have to
referring
teach a baby to breathe?
I was referring to his example of a snake, not the effect of the evolution. Because there are people who want to, as a baby, like myself, went near snakes and held them like they were my friend.
And I bet they died.
Oh, they didn't. I still have one of the pet snakes, technically.
Well, no,
It's her offspring.
Definitely
So
afraid of snakes.
I'm sure that the majority of the population would shudder if you placed a snake behind them and they turned around and saw it. It's not.
yes,
it's a natural reaction.
That's a learnt behavior, though.
No,
if you get a baby, most babies will not go off about a snake being behind them. They'll look at the thing and go, "Oh, I want to play with this," and they'll try and play with it.
Human babies are a little special, but because they're kind of dumb compared to, at least from birth, they're kind of dumb.
Well, they're
compared to other animals.
protected.
There's other animals that from birth are far more naturally inclined to survive on their own than a baby.
And I agree.
And those animals would probably know not to go near a snake. It could probably.
Well, the point is
things we are definitely born with for certain as fears are fears of heights and fears of loud noises.
Oh, I fucking hate.
What? Whoa! What do you mean we have them ingrained fears of heights?
A lot of people are afraid of heights because you go near a cliff. And
so you're saying the outliers that aren't afraid of heights, they're not.
No, I'm talking about form with. I didn't say that fears can't be overcome. I didn't say that you don't learn that babies are naturally, even very early on, they will not, like if you give like the visual representation of a cliff, even though they haven't been told that gravity exists or that you can fall or anything, they won't go over. Like if you have like a plexiglass sheet where they can't tell that it's actually going to be a fall, they will come to an edge and they will fucking stop. There is an inborn.
So what's with all the babies falling off couches?
It's the same. It's the same reason why throughout my entire childhood my bed was a bunk bed and I was on the top bunk and I never once fell off while I was asleep, and it did not have a rail because my body just knew even while I was asleep that once I rolled over and it felt that there was no more bed there, it rolled the other direction, and I never fell off. That doesn't. It's not like I'm consciously doing that while I'm asleep. That's an
I agree with that.
Thing.
But I wouldn't say we're afraid of heights. I wouldn't go that far because fear is a conscious act. And
no. I actually
can be instinctual for sure.
People. So there's a difference between having a fear, having an aversion, having a phobia. Okay, when people think fear, and generally speaking, they often are thinking of people who are having a phobic response to something, like an irrational.
Like
I can agree that most people would have that.
Okay,
and I don't peer fear as that. I've always peered as fear as something they would they would either try to avoid, and if they could, they would do it, but they would not like it in any way, shape, or form.
And that is how
Okay,
we
wait a
react.
second. Are you?
That's
Oh, wait a second. On that definition,
right.
wait. On that definition, are you speaking only from your personal experience, or what you know to be true from people? Because I
What
don't
I know
think
to
that
be true
definition.
from many people I've met. Because, e.g., I am arachnophobic, but if someone handed me a tarantula in my hand, I wouldn't go completely nuts.
I
So I
would.
don't count myself as a fit. I would sit there and go, "Holy shit!" and be paralyzed with fear.
Yeah, that's
See,
still a
here's the-
reaction. You're just
here's the-
controlling it with because your consciousness is evaluating the fact that, okay, it's a tarantula and most likely it won't bite you. It's a pet. It's probably used to being held and it's probably not going to bite you. So you're overcoming your fear, but you're still fucking scared, dude.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm not. I'm not saying I'm not. All I'm saying is a baby would not have. A second. Oh, that was disgusting. That was disgusting. I just swallowed a fly.
Oh my gosh.
Fucking
I
fly.
thought somebody snuck up behind you and just fucking started choking you out.
I've had that happen before. They learn not to do that from behind.
Swallowed a fly, but perhaps you'll die.
I'll have to eat a spider. I'll just have to eat a spider. It's all good. I lost my train of thought because of the fly. God damn it.
Derailed.
Fucking fly. As a child, I myself didn't have many fears of spiders. As a child, I was bitten by a redback.
But the difference is you're not neurotypical. You're not the best example of this.
I know.
If you looked at the
But
average, it would be a better.
This particular thing was about me and my friend, and my friend is a neurotypical person. He hasn't got any mental disabilities whatsoever, even though we wish he had. We so wish he has now. But anyway, he and I were literally sitting down near this web, and I saw a redback, and I put my hand out, and it crawled onto my hand, and was around my house, I was playing with it. Then I got scared because my mother saw me, and she went, "What are you doing?" And I jumped, and the redback bit me. My friend was doing the same with the same redback. And it wasn't until that day, after that day, we had nothing to do with them.
Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna read you something.
I've seen videos of babies like freaking out and starting crying if someone sneaks up behind them and yells.
Yeah, not
Just
just that.
because-
Let me read you something from Psychology
Bad
Today.
noise. Okay, psychology today. Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
that's a fear of loud noises. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
This-
I'm not
this is-
disputing that one. I'm not
This
disputing
is
that one.
Psychology Today. Many animals are genetically programmed to fear their predators. Mice naturally fear cats. Fish
Yep.
naturally fear birds. These fears don't have to be learned, they're inborn. The product of natural selective forces that are rewarded, such as fears in the evolutionary path. Are also humans naturally disposed to fear certain dangerous animals? It's certainly true that we fear some things more than others, snakes, spiders, rats, but this could be a result potentially of conditioning and programming. Perhaps we learn to fear snakes and spiders because they bite, and we fear rats because we're taught they spread disease, or maybe not. Scientists who study fear conditioning have noticed that it's easier to train humans to fear snakes, spiders, and like things than it is to train fear and friendly of things like dogs and fluffy pillows. This is especially true for children. Indeed, some very young children are afraid of these animals before ever encountering or hearing about them. There appear to be preconditioned human tendencies to fear snakes and spiders. This makes sense because throughout human evolution, these animals have accounted for countless deaths. Having an inborn avoidance and instinct would create a distinctive survival advantage, especially in young children. These studies have revealed that humans are predisposed to fear snakes, spiders, and though there's no universal and firmly programmed fear of them, plenty of people actually love snakes and spiders and keep them as pets as part of a career. For these people, the absence of a conditioning event or the predisposition towards fearing these animals was never triggered. If humans are predisposed to fear snakes and spiders, we might expect to see this in some of our close relatives as well. After all, the lethal danger posed by these critters is in no way restricted to human beings. Obviously, we would not expect to find it in animals that evolved to hunt snakes or spiders because it would have naturally lost any such aversion. But studies have shown that virtually all monkey species show fear of snakes in the wild, while most monkeys in captivity do not. However, this does not address the issue of predisposition. Most humans are not born afraid of snakes, but they are much more likely to become afraid of them because they are most other kinds of animals. The question is do primates show a predisposition towards fearing snakes and spiders? To answer this, Susan Minkina and Michael Cook of Northwest University conducted a set of clever experiments with rhesus monkeys that revealed that the connection between the predisposition and exposure is even more intricate than previously thought. In this experiment, the researchers tried to train naive monkeys to fear snakes by having them watch videos of other monkeys behaving fearful towards snakes or crocodiles. The result, the monkeys actually caught the fear of snakes and crocodiles. No monkeys were actually harmed, and no fear conditioning with loud noises, shocks, or pain took place. The observer monkeys simply watched the sounds and body language of other monkeys from videos and inferred that they were afraid of snakes and crocodiles. This shows that in monkeys, the fear of danger can be learned from others, not just through direct experience. There's an entire article that breaks this down, but it essentially, what it's getting at is that there's a genetic predisposition towards fearing certain things. It still needs to be triggered, and if somebody is neuroatypical, that triggering event may not function properly.
I think it's also fair to say, real quick, that this fear conditioning for animals took place way before fucking people. Because you look at snakes and spiders, they are some of the oldest, not necessarily predatory species, but species that could very easily kill just about any animal in the wrong circumstances. So it's an understandable reason why most animals would be afraid, and eventually that would translate into people. It's just that people have the ability to lose that because our brains get complex enough where instincts don't exactly take over. But
can I just ask a question about that thing? Sorry, I must have missed it for a second. It had two sets of monkeys, correct? That one was set to observe freaking a video of other monkeys being afraid of snakes and crocodiles, while the other was not. Was what they did? Just to confirm.
Well, they were looking at several things. This was one of the experiments to see if there's a predisposed fear because.
So the monkeys observed them having fears of those creatures, and then they showed those fears. Was there another test revolving around those monkeys? A different set of monkeys that
they were
crocodiles and snakes, or something on those lines. Because at the moment you're giving me what I would nearly call a control variable, because you've shown them pictures or videos of other their same species being fearful of them, so then they've become fearful of them.
So here's the difference, right? So what they did is they took the experiment a step further, taking the fear conditioning that was effective to train the monkeys to fear the snakes, and they applied it to try to get them to fear flowers. So in that setup, the researchers used creative splicing and video editing to create convincing videos of rhesus monkeys behaving as though they were afraid of some artificial flowers. However, the other monkeys that watched the video didn't acquire any conditioned fear from real or artificial flowers. So the point is,
that's an interesting
is that the propensity to learn a fear based on this wasn't simply based on the response that was observed. It was based on what it was in response to, which shows a propensity to develop a fear of that thing over top other things. It's got more to do with that than it does. So the control group is different. Yeah,
I would love to see an experiment when they did that where they had monkeys petting crocodiles. That'd be interesting to see what they would do if they saw that.
Well, they used crocodiles as well, I do believe.
Yeah, but I meant as in they had monkeys being friendly to crocodiles. just to see if they would go and become non-fearful of them. That's just my little opinion, but it might not matter. But it's still something that would be nice to see if they actually did that. Would be cool. But moving
Why?
from that,
Train monkeys to get eaten easily? I don't see the
no,
point.
because that means that, in my mind, that would mean that the only reason why they feared it was because other monkeys feared it. Because of the fact that, yes, it was flowers.
Yes, but if it was the only reason, then they would have feared the other things as well.
Yes, I
That's
agree. I would agree to that, but at the same time, I would say that's another variable, because you're looking at a thing with lots of teeth, lots of jaws, a snake that looks just weird, a flower that looks pretty in most people's eyes. I've never met a person that was like going, "Oh, that flower's completely ugly and scary and shit."
Exactly, because we have predefined genetic programming to be able to distinguish.
Yes. But again, can you show me a flower that's actually can be perceived as scary in any way, shape, or form?
Venus flytrap.
I was just gonna say that, but
Two flies.
and I actually
those things got long spikes and
afraid
shit
of
on them.
flowers. So
And true, I'm afraid of roses. Do they use roses or just flowers?
it doesn't.
What's that flower that smells like a dead body, and it like blooms once every 20 years?
Yeah, so
Isn't that the lotus?
is what is considered an extreme and often irrational fear of flowers.
What phobia?
Anthrophobia.
See, I would have thought that would be the fear of bipedal creatures, because anthro meaning no, anthro doesn't mean two.
Anthrophobia is a combination of the Greek words. Anthros means flowers, and phobos means fear.
Oh, anthros. I thought anthro.
You know, I can see that.
Slightly different.
I can see why that would happen, because imagine if throughout evolutionary history, you had people who would eat certain flowers that were poisonous and die, and the people that didn't eat flowers because they were, afraid of them would survive. And so you have a natural selection for not eating certain flowers.
But I would like to see if you had photos, like if you've managed to Photoshop it somehow for a monkey petting like a crocodile, just to see what they would see if they saw like another crocodile. Like just like showed a picture of a crocodile and see what they would do to it, or bring in a crocodile. I don't want to bring in crocodile because then the monkey would probably get eaten.
Exactly.
Because you do have cases where like mice become friends of cats.
What you're talking about, we already know about, because you're talking about deconditioning a fear, right? Like if you expose people to enough stimuli to show them that something isn't scary and they haven't already developed a fear, then yeah, that fear is going to be absent.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Did they show the picture of the snake and crocodile before they show the things being scareful of the thing? The monkey showing things.
I don't know the exact.
I'd like to know more about that experiment. Can you just send me a link to that, please? That'd be nice. I can have a read for that and have a look into it a bit more, because that actually is a really interesting experiment. But how did we go from fear to AI?
Well, you see, artificial beings have fear.
Oh, that's right, because we were trying to say there was space. Like, see, I believe we can make a strong AI. Eventually. We have all the required parts, and they just have to be put together. But we do not have the full... Let me finish. But we do not have the full code in full put together yet. We still have to put it together. That's the bit of the code. And that's what I've been trying to get at the base of it, that we still don't know how to put the code together of AI, strong AI itself. We only know the parts of the codes to put together. We just can't put them together yet.
You're moving the goalpost. We've been saying that all along, and you've been saying
no. You haven't. I've asked this question 3 times. Correct me if I'm wrong. This was before the hangout. But I asked the question, do we have the entire program for the strong AI to put into a computer right now? And you have said yes.
How you initially framed it, no.
That's exactly how I framed it before. I've written it down. I've had it in front of me the whole time.
You said, do we have the pieces for a strong AI?
I never said pieces. Yeah. I said, do we have the coding for a strong AI.
And you've said, do we have it in one place? We have said no.
So we have the coding for a strong AI.
We have the bits and pieces for the coding of strong AI.
So we're missing bits and pieces, so we do not have the full coding.
No,
because
we're not missing it. They just haven't been put together.
So you're saying there isn't any part of it that needs to be put together to make it all work universally?
Of course it needs to be put together to make it work.
Yes, but to put it together, so you're saying, in my mind, when you say put together, you're just saying slapping it all together and it works. That's not how it works. You have to put code into it, more code into it to make it all together.
Your mind. That's not what we're saying.
But then again, that means we do not have the full program for a strong AI.
Okay, can we just agree that this is semantics at this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please, God, yes. And let's move on to something fucking else.
Hey,
it was
so how
interesting
about that
fucking an
dumb
hour
flat
ago.
earther?
It was. But I'm actually interested in the monkey fear thing. That actually seems really interesting.
So
Would
hey,
you
how
go
about
up
all
and
those
pet a
flat
crocodile?
earthers?
Would you go up and pet a crocodile?
Yes, I've done it before.
You're fucking insane.
You haven't realized this yet?
You are an outlier.
I am an outlier. Like, don't use me as an example, because I do some stupid shit.
This one
Well,
time
you
I
do
pointed
live
a
in
gun at
Australia.
myself.
Yes, that too.
You've got goddamn jellyfish the size of my fucking half of my pinky that'll kill your ass in 6 seconds down
Yeah.
there.
Why do you think I
And then
don't
there's
swim?
one half the freaking size of your body that can kill you too. They're scary in two ways. One's invisible. One's terrifying looking.
Okay. I have to say this: Australia, the country of the platypus. It makes more sense than anything else.
Wait,
If you describe
can you,
Australia as a platypus, it makes a lot of sense.
A goddamn
does it matter if you hit a
that
if you-
lays eggs and has a fucking poisonous stinger on it. Yeah, okay.
It also
fair
has
enough.
a bill, a pouch, and a tail that's like weird, almost a beaver's tail.
That's what
Like,
happens
yeah.
when you isolate a piece of land from the rest of the earth for 80 million years.
Yeah, you get fucked up creatures like the platypus that want to murder your ass. Well, actually, they don't. Surprisingly, they're the
And
only
since
creature I
the
know
rest
that
of
will
us
kill them.
normal people,
Oh, shut up! You're not normal. You're from America.
Fair enough.
hey, I'm a good old Georgia boy.
See, I have to say this: America needs to go to metric system.
I do prefer the metric system because it's easier to do math with the metric system. There's
Yeah, there's a lot
Like-
less fractions and bullshit with the metric system. But, you know,
it
you
makes
use
sense.
0.25 instead of like a quarter.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you use 25 because normal measurements is in millimeters, surprisingly, which is
Is it
annoying.
10 millimeters in a centimeter?
Yes.
And then 100 centimeters in a meter?
If
And then
anybody else
1,000 meters in a kilometer?
Yeah, which is described by its word itself. So,
Which is just beautiful versus 12 inches in a foot,
Isn't it?
5,280 feet. It's just so weird.
it goes foot, yards,
Miles.
mile, and then it has something else.
I don't
So
even
it's the third thing.
I think at that point you're just, I don't know what else that would be.
It has a weird, but it's just weird. It's like even kilobytes and megabytes. Yes, it's 1,024 kilobytes into a megabyte, but it's still, you can still use the metric system for that. You just ignore the 24
Yeah,
megabytes. and
that 24
kilobytes
is only there for hardware, like technical reasons. But
Yeah, but it's like when you get a 1 gig hard drive, you've got 1,024 kilobytes, but the 24 kilobytes is used by its base programming.
yeah, the extra storage is like cache and to actually run the onboard software to
Yeah.
operate the hard drive.
Have the information so the computer can go, oh, I downloaded the information.
Yeah.
I just gotta point out to everybody, in case you're not aware that this exists. Did you know that Douglas Adams actually wrote a short little thing called Douglas Adams' Guide to Australia?
Who's this Deadless Adam?
Douglas
Have you ever
Adams.
seen
Doug-
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, motherfucker.
Yeah,
Have you
I
read
heard
it?
Deadless. I heard Deadless.
The Daedalus.
I'd be weirded out too.
I was like, who the hell's this Deadless guy?
No,
Why
no.
is he called Deadless?
Douglas.
Douglas. Okay, yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yes, I did know that. But
Has anybody else ever read it?
I
No.
have
I have not.
not.
Oh, it's great. It
Does
says
it-
the following. It says, Australia is a very confusing place, taking up large amounts of the bottom half of the planet. It's recognizable from orbit because of its many unusual features, including what at first looks like an enormous bite taken out of its southern edge. A wall of sheer cliffs which plunge deep into the girding sea. Geologists assure us that this is simply an accident of geomorphology and plate tectonics, but they still call it the Great Australian Bight, BIGHT, proving that they're not only covering up a more terrifying theory, but that they can't spell either. The first of these confusing things about Australia is the status of the place, where other land masses, or typically sovereign lands, are classified as either a continent, island, or country. Australia is classified as all three. Typically, is unique in this. The second confusing thing about Australia are the animals. They can be divided into three categories: poisonous, odd, and sheep. It is true about
It is so true.
poisonous arachnids on the planet. Australia has 9 of them. Actually, it'd be more accurate to say that 9 of the most poisonous arachnids, Australia has all of them. However, there are curiously few snakes, possibly because the spiders have killed them all. But even the spiders won't go near the sea. Any visitors should be careful to check inside boots before putting them on, under toilet seats, before sitting down, and generally everywhere else. A stick is very useful for this task. Strangely, it tends to be the second class of animals, the odd, that are more dangerous. The creature that kills the most people each year is the common wombat. It's nearly as ridiculous as its name. It spends its life digging holes in the ground in which it hides. During the night, it comes out to eat worms and grubs. The wombat kills people in 2 ways. First, the animal is indestructible. Digging holes in the hard Australian clay builds muscles that outclass Olympic weightlifters. At night, they often wander the roads. Semi-trailers, road trains have hit them at high speeds with all 9 wheels on one side, and this merely makes them very annoyed. They express this by snorting, gnarling, and walking away. Alas, to smaller cars, the wombat becomes a symmetrical launching pad, with results that can be imagined but not adequately described. The second way the wombat kills people relates to its burrowing behavior. If a person happens to put their hand down a wombat hole, the wombat would feel the disturbance and think, "Oh, my hole is collapsing," at which it will brace its muscled legs and push up against the roof of the burrow with incredible force to prevent its collapse. Any unfortunate hand will be crushed, and attempts to withdraw will cause only the wombat to simply bear down harder. The unfortunate will then bleed to death through their crushed hand as the wombat prevents him from seeking assistance. This is considered the third most embarrassing known way to die, and Australians don't talk about it much.
No, we don't. Like Australia
Wait,
Continues.
is an
that's
actual.
accurate.
That's an actual thing that does happen, and like this is Australia. There is not a single natural creature of Australia that won't try or can kill you. Like,
Oh,
even
yeah?
what?
I can name one.
What? I'm actually interested.
I'm thinking, shit. A flea.
No, we have things called flea nests, which have drained people of blood.
Okay. How about a very particular species of caterpillar which is known to not be dangerous at all?
I don't think. Does Australia have native caterpillars?
Well, if it
Do you have
does,
butterflies?
checkmate.
Okay, I'll accept that, but I don't count insects as animals.
What about
no. You
what
know
about
what I mean.
there's-
birds? I'm sure
there's
there's
fucking
birds that don't kill people.
Magpies have killed people.
I didn't say
Yeah,
that
there's-
particular bird. There's got to be other birds. that kill people.
What other birds
There's-
are natural to Australia? Kookaburra. I don't know if a kookaburra's killed anyone, but they definitely can.
Wait, are
Because they're
kiwis
assholes.
just in New Zealand, or do you have some of them too?
I'm pretty sure they're only in New Zealand.
Damn.
I don't think they would survive here.
Yeah, they'd get eaten by the birds.
What? Like fucking 50 miles away? Like, well, kiwis, yeah, no. Too many things would try and they would be a sitting kiwi.
They would
I
be a
think-
sitting kiwi.
I think Red Eye told me that there are no kiwis in Australia. They're only in New Zealand.
Yeah, I thought
That's
so.
too bad.
And then I said emus, and he got triggered. So
No. Emus will kill you. We lost a war to them. What do you expect?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm pretty sure Australia.
We don't mention it,
using
We lost a war.
Australia you losing to emus is like the same thing as the French joke they've never won a war even against themselves. Like
Yes.
it's on par with that.
It's a good joke because of the fact that it's truthful. We technically lost that war. Technically, it's still going, according to if you use like wartime. It is because we did declare war on emus. It's just that we never didn't like have an ending to it, so to speak.
So
You
like
never
every
declared
time you
victory.
see an emu, do you like go in your house and grab the shotgun and
Oh,
chase
no.
the fucker down?
No, because we don't have shotguns.
Oh,
Shoot
that's
'em
right.
in
You
the
guys
fucking
don't have,
face.
So
do you
like
go and grab your slingshot and chase the fucker down?
we don't have slingshots. We have boomerangs. Get it right.
Yeah, I was going to
Do you
We
pick
have
up a large rock? And
How about bolas? Do you have bolas?
No.
do you
I
have
don't have a
rocks?
dollar. Are they illegal? I don't know if they're illegal or not. I'll have to look that one up. I don't know if they're illegal or not.
Do y'all have axes?
Yeah, we have access, but we don't go out and kill emus because you have to hunt them in the natural way, just like kangaroos.
So you mean you
So-
gotta chase them down and bite them with
No,
your
no, no.
teeth?
So since they're like all Australian species, they're naturally protected due to the fact that they're only in Australia. That's their only natural habitat. And because of that, we have this law, which is basically unless you're an Aboriginal with an Aboriginal tribe and you hunt them for Aboriginal reasons, and you're hunting them in the Aboriginal way, so not with a gun, but with like a spear, I'm pretty sure. Like, don't get me, I'm not 100% sure. I'm sort of like 70, 80% sure with this. They can do it, but they're the only ones that can. You can't just go out and kill a freaking kangaroo or an emu without repercussions.
Then what was the emu war all about?
So the emu war, what that was about was basically when we were first starting up our farms, there was these emus in this particular area that were just overpopulated. They were killing off the farm crops, and basically the farmers had enough. So they went to the government, and the government went, "Sure, we'll kill them." So they went to quote unquote war with them, and they sent out basically a trailer with a gun
Dang.
and tried to kill off populations of emu, only to discover that that didn't sort of
There's
work.
too many.
And basically, yeah, there's too many. But I believe it was, I'm not exactly sure, but I thought it was like one of those old versions of a minigun. Like, those old, really old hand crank minigun sort of things. I
a
think
Gatling gun. It's called a Gatling gun.
Gatling gun. That's not the actual name of the gun, though.
Minigun?
And the minigun
No.
is,
A minigun was what was in the first Predator that Jesse Ventura had.
I'm referring to a 6-barreled item that fires by a hand crank.
That's
Then
a
the Gatling gun, yeah.
Okay, so we'll go with Gatling for that one. But anyway, and that didn't really do much. It really didn't. And what actually happened in the end is we just sort of gave out a bounty for it. And then that sort of stopped because it didn't work either. Like, there are just so many emus and you don't want to be hit by an emu, by the way.
Wait a second. So, and then before you go on, all I know now, I want an Australian movie where a guy tells a really fucking depressing story about the emu war, and it's directly analogous to fucking Jaws when he tells the story about the Indianapolis and like the
that
fucking
would be fun. Like, the fucking emus. Fucking bastards!
We were surrounded, trapped in the foxhole. We're
Man
getting
goes out.
No, I
We
could just
woke up.
It would be a wombat hole,
guys,
actually.
guys. Can
We
you
woke
remember
up.
that?
It was
Can
a
you-
Sunday
Man go out.
morning.
Has
We
anyone
opened the
played?
no,
front
wait.
door and allowed
Guys,
Wait, wait, wait,
Has
wait, wait,
anyone
wait,
played
wait,
Battlefield
wait,
1? Has anyone played Battlefield 1?
wait. Before you go on, platoon go out to the bush.
No.
Bush
no,
have emu.
no.
Emu take emu have beak. Man don't do very well on beak and
No, it's legs. It would be legs. But no. Does everyone remember Battlefield? Has
Whatever.
anyone seen the starting for Battlefield 1 where you're jumping from these different guys and you're fighting against some group? I can't remember really what. I'm just imagining that, but except you're fighting emus and like we're just losing quite badly.
Well, they've got those raptor claws, don't they?
Has anyone watched not Adventure Time, regular show?
Yes.
Do you remember that? Does anyone remember that episode where they had that ostrich thing that would chop down trees with a single hit with its claws?
Yes.
That's practically an emu.
Don't emus have vestigial arms or vestigial wings?
Which means what? I'm not sure what vestigial means at the moment.
Basically, wings that have reduced in size and function
Yes.
and are no longer used.
Yes, ostriches used to fly.
Yes.
Yeah, they're basically ostriches.
Vestigial.
Explain that, young Earth creationist.
I know. See, anytime anyone says that Noah's Ark was real, I go Australia. Because if you say Noah's Ark was real,
But
that means
how
you
did the
accept
platypuses get back to Australia?
they can swim, but like the only way you can explain the fact, and the only legitimate way I've heard, and I pissed myself when I heard this, was a volcano blew them to Australia.
I've heard that one.
Oh,
And
that's
to give
some
you
some goddamn Scientology shit right there.
wait. But to give you an example of how powerful that volcano is, it would have to shoot them into space, and then they managed to survive a fall from space after being up there for 3 hours.
Hey, buddy, if you believe that the Earth is freaking 6,000 years old and probably flat with a crystal dome over it, and that everything was created that recently, it's not that much of a stretch that maybe God could have protected them in space.
No,
I mean, magicked up the arc pretty good.
For like a second, you sounded like that fucking dope on like 30 Rock and the guy who played Fix It Felix.
Hey, man, I'm just trying to tell you what I think it is. I love this. Like, I live in the Bible Belt of the United States, and
you.
there are so many creationists at my school, and we get into arguments in like environmental science class, biology, and they're very interesting. But they're not like the good creationists that have actually studied it. It's just kind of like they go to church now and then and they know a little bit about it. But they, you get into an argument and they like 5 minutes later just like, well, I just have faith in the Lord, and and I'm like, okay, so you're not going to defend your arguments anymore, and then it just gets boring after a while.
I like having discussions with people, but the moment they bring in a higher power, like, oh, I've been to a university, so I know better, or anything like that in a discussion, unless it's to do with a medical subject or something that actually, whoever dropped that bottle, like a subject that pertains, and it's not like psychology, it's not like people frame of reference sort of stuff, like where it's actually like a science type thing, e.g. AI and stuff like that, and they had like a legitimate claim to something like that, then yes. If it's something that cannot be disproven as a fact, sort of thing, you know what I mean? Like
I've had that where I've seen
like when they just say
someone will say, "Well, it's a fact that evolution is true," and then the young Earth creationists will say, "Well, that's not a fact," and then they're like, "Well, actually, I'm a PhD biologist, and it is a fact that evolution is
because we can see that Galapagos Island, like Galapagos Island, it literally showed, like, even I just saw pictures of the Galapagos and went, holy shit, I know that bird, I've seen that bird before, and it literally looks the exact same.
I'll believe in evolution as soon as you can show me a dog turning into a cat.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh,
You've
God.
probably heard that line, haven't you?
I've
Yes.
actually heard that shit,
I'm
brother.
sure
I remember those lines. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Hey, man,
Oh,
you
Crocoduck is
you
a
believe that all
beautiful
people
fucking...
came from pond scum, don't you?
Oh, God.
One of
Hey,
my favorite.
I
My
bet
favorite
you believe
lines.
that a monkey gave birth to a human like 5,000 years ago or something, don't you, bud? You're special.
My favorite of all time argument to do with evolution was has anyone watched Futurama before?
Yes.
There's an episode. There is an
Yeah.
episode, and it's got the scientist. He goes, "We came from this to this to this to this," and like he goes through this whole fucking like all the Homo sapiens and everything like that. And then there's a link between a monkey and the human, this Prio Homo sapien. They're like, because we don't know this, we're not evolution is false, and it's like, really?
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
it's
no,
like-
I love that scene. I love Professor Bobo. Like, what's his fucking...
I don't know
the
the name.
orangutan?
Oh, I think it's Professor Bobo. I think Professor Bobo is right. I think it's something like that. But it was just
It
sort
is
of like
something-
as you can
close.
see, the entire
It might have been Pogo or something.
it's like going and saying, my phone isn't real because it doesn't have a SIM card.
as you can
Right.
see, all of the evidence points towards that fact that evolution is true, except we don't have every fucking transitional fossil ever, so therefore it must not be true. I've heard people say like, well, if evolution is true, then why isn't there a transitional fossil for everything?
There's such thing as a transitional fossil. Anyway,
And then, I've tried to explain that. So that's
Every
like the
fossil is
hardest
a
concept
transitional
for
fossil.
people to understand. Yeah, every fossil is in the process of becoming not what it currently is. Like in 50,000 years, humans probably won't look the same as they do now.
in
I'm a
50,000 years, we will be
transitional
energy.
I'm a transitional fossil between 50,000 years older humans and 50,000 years in the future
Dr.
humans.
Banjo. Dr. Banjo.
Dr.
I'm
Banjo,
sorry,
was
Ed.
it?
Yeah, no. Anyways, go on. I
Okay.
interrupted your point. I apologize.
No, that's cool, but I mean, that's basically like for some reason that's so difficult to explain to people that every generation is different from their previous generation, and so I am a transitional fossil between the previous generation that came before me and the generation that came after me. Just
Yeah,
the slightest difference, but that builds up over hundreds of thousands of years. But that's so difficult for some reason.
I'm gonna have to ask this question, and it really, I have to think about this as to why. This is to do with flat earthers, by the way.
Oh fuck!
This is a good one though.
I love that.
How do they say that satellites don't exist?
Well, don't
Like,
you
how
know
do
that
they
there's
sound
high
like? I don't-
altitude? They're high altitude weather balloons, buddy.
Is that what they're saying it is?
That's what I heard. I hear it's either high altitude weather balloons or there's high
They either
altitude
don't
planes.
Or
They
it's
either
just,
don't exist. They're a hoax. There's something
Like,
that
it's
doesn't.
just like- It's like, how does that work when my phone literally proves that satellites exist? Because I can call people on the other side of the world.
No,
Under
buddy, that's
fire.
called
There is no other
it's
side of the
called
world. Your prices
satellite
are
towers.
fucking fake.
There is no
Well, shut
other
the
side of
fucking
the world,
GPS.
buddy. It's all flat. He's on it's away from me. He's not on the other side of the world.
No, seriously.
Oh wait,
the thing that
I forgot.
the thing that kills it for me, honestly, when it comes to round Earth, is the ability to take a flight from Seattle to Hawaii to Tokyo. You don't get to do that on a flat Earth the same way that we can.
Yeah.
Just crossing the Pacific Ocean.
They're brainwashing you on the fucking NASA-funded plane flight.
Not to
Oh,
mention
see,
that
It's right in the name. It flies along a plane, not a globe.
these
Otherwise,
guys
see, here's
It
the
was a
thing.
globe flying
Here's the
around.
thing.
don't you
Here's
know
the
that
thing.
if a plane was flying on a globe, that it would constantly have to pitch down so it didn't fly into space?
No,
So-
just no. That's not how it
Here's-
works.
I've tried
Wait a
to
second.
explain to people that to gain altitude requires energy, and so if you're just gliding at the same altitude, that you're going to stay at that same altitude, even though you're going over a curve, because even though there's a curve, you're still at the same altitude relative to the center of the Earth, and so for you to fly off into space would mean that you would have to gain tons of energy in order to escape the Earth's gravity. But if you just stay at the same altitude, even though there's a curve, you're still staying at the same altitude. You're just moving along with the curve, and so you would just stay at the same altitude.
and we're so
It's because level and flat are the same thing.
One second.
You son of a bitch.
My favorite,
have you guys...
favorite of all time flat Earth saying was, if when we enter space, why don't we just break apart because we go 5,000 kilometers a second?
Don't you know that if space was real, the atmosphere would be sucked away because you can't have a positive pressure next to a vacuum?
See, that's actually another thing that freaking touches up on the transitional fossil and the like the changes over time. Like
Don't
gradient.
go full wonton. Never go full wonton.
No,
Okay, don't even talk to me about wonton. Okay.
Yeah, don't talk to me about wonton.
But real
it's
quick.
not my fault that y'all are just a bunch of NASA shills. Okay.
Real quick, something that needs to be acknowledged more by people like this are that gradients are a thing. Like I want them to point. I want somebody who's a fucking young Earth creationist or a flat earther to point on a scale between yellow and green where it stops being yellow and where it starts where it stops being yellow and where it starts being green. Just like you pick the definitive point where that is. Go for it.
The analogy that I use in terms of evolution is that if you have there's a mile, okay, and every generation is 1 foot. You are taking a 1 foot step and you're trying to walk a mile. So every generation that happens, you take another step. Okay. At what point, at what number of generations do you reach? Do you go, like, let's say the start of the 1 mile journey, you're a human. At what point along that journey do you not become a human? At what step, definitive generation point, are you just no longer a human compared to when you started? It doesn't work like that. You are still a human the entire way, all the way to the end. In the same way that I'm still a eukaryote. I never outgrew my ancestry.
Yep, that's directly from Arnro.
I'm still diploid. I'm still all of my previous ancestral traits. So when it's like they seem to think that you just go from being human to something entirely different that looks entirely. No, it's like a fine gradient that is on the generational level, and that's why it takes tens of thousands of generations for significant change to happen.
I mean,
it doesn't happen.
It's like 2 billion years. If we were giant scaled flying bird things, we would still be humans.
Yes, we would still be eukaryotic. Blah blah blah. We'd still be mammals. We'd still be apes. We'd still be great apes. We'd still be humans, and then all the other things.
I don't think we would be mammals if we were scaled, but if we did
if we're mammals now, it doesn't matter what we become in the future. We'll still be a mammal.
Yep.
Yeah, in the same way that we're still eukaryotic. It doesn't matter how much we evolve, we'll still be eukaryotic.
If we suddenly turned into crocodiles, we're still a mammal crocodile, even though we are exactly the same as crocodile.
That's not how evolution works. You wouldn't just turn into it.
I know, but like I meant over time, we managed to become a crocodile.
DNA splicing or something, maybe, but
that's what I mean. Like, I meant like somehow we gained wings, and as you were saying, like reptile skin and shit, and everything was the same, except for the fact that maybe we don't lay eggs.
You would have to guide that. You'd have to guide that.
If you think about it like a tree, the base of the tree is all life. You go up, and there's 2 branches, and they branch off, and those branch are eukaryotic and non-eukaryotic, or eukaryotic and prokaryotic. We lie on the branch that is eukaryotic. You follow that branch, and there's another break-off point, and I don't know what actually Aaron Raw has a really good video series that he's been working on, the systematic classification of life. It's like 30 episodes long, where he goes through every branching point on our tree, and he's getting all the way down to humans, and it's a really interesting thing to watch. But there's like many steps. I couldn't name them all, but you keep branching off, but at no point did I jump from the eukaryotic branch to the prokaryotic branch. I will never be able to move over to prokaryotic, no matter how long evolution takes place.
Well,
I'll
natural
always
evolution.
be.
Well,
Yeah,
wait a second.
I'll
What you
always
could
be a member of the eukaryotic branch.
the most you could describe is that you would become more reptile-like.
Yeah,
More, you know what? But you're
you
never
wouldn't
going.
actually be a reptile because that would require that you jump to
Some
another
cold-blooded.
Yeah, I mean, you could, in theory,
No, wouldn't
You
even, it
could,
wouldn't be based on
but it
that.
would-
you could drive evolution into a direction that you wanted
So
to
that's
over time, but it
unnatural.
would take a lot of.
It's like there's a
effort.
lot of animals that have developed eyes independently. And it's not like all animals that developed eyes are related to each other or all
Yeah.
came from the same
more
There are-
related to each
yeah.
other than others. Yeah.
There
But
are
what I-
animals that developed their own sets of eyes on their own branches. Just because they developed eyes does not mean that they're now my branch. In the same way, if I develop scales, it doesn't mean that I'm now a reptile. It would mean that I'm just a mammal, and there would become a new subset of mammals with scales and mammals without scales.
Yeah.
Right now, there are no mammals with scales. I don't
Don't-
think there are.
No
But
clip. Can you stop for a second?
yeah.
I'm sorry. Did anyone hear the demonic undertone that was coming off No Clip just then, or was it just me? Like I heard his voice, and then I heard like an echo, but it was like a demonic echo in the
It might
background.
have. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how to use this new mic. It might be echoing through my headset.
I definitely didn't hear that though.
Okay, it might have just been me.
Yeah, I'm actually a secret reptilian Shilluminati.
Well, I'm an
shill for
Australian,
NASA.
so I'm an actor. So you got to get that right. I'm an actor.
You know how I bought this mic with that good old shill money from NASA? This was not a cheap mic, sir.
I'm just gonna say this. Anyone who anytime anyone says, "Oh, it's all a NASA conspiracy," Russia. Why would Russia say America got to the moon first? They hated America.
Why would Russia admit to that?
Like the only reason why Russia admitted to that is because they fired a laser at it.
Shadow government. Obvi.
Oh,
Duh.
fuck you! It was because they fired a laser at the moon. They blew up the moon.
No, there is still definite proof that we have at least been to the moon. Maybe not landed people on it, but been to the moon. And that is by the fact that when we went to the moon, they left behind retroreflectors. And that's how we use them to measure the distance to the moon, by bouncing lasers off of them.
They what they do to deny you that fact is they say it bounces off the dome.
No, because then the dome must be getting farther away every year by about 1.5 centimeters, because the moon is.
Well, we don't know the edge of the dome, so why can't it be?
Well, that, and it doesn't even have to be that freaking difficult. You could even say that, you know, the moon varies in distance in its natural orbit.
Yeah.
Well, it would have to. Like, the thing is, though, in a flat Earth, it would literally have to, but it would be varying in difference of freaking the like.
In a flat Earth, the actual apparent diameter or the apparent angular resolution of the moon would change throughout the moon cycle as it moves closer and farther away from you, because you're on this disk and there's supposed to be the sun and the moon above you, and they move around the disk, and so they would be getting farther and closer to you. So they would literally, in the morning, like the sun, it would start out very small, and as it got closer to you, it would increase in size, and then after that, it would shrink back down again until it disappeared. But that doesn't happen. The sun stays basically the exact same angular resolution. So
I don't know. Is Clockwork even here anymore?
He's got his mic.
This is his hangout. So
I know. I was just checking on him just to see. He was idle on Discord, so I was just sort of curious if he passed out on us or something.
If he passed on us, we would just start drawing funny faces on his face. Someone go to his house right now and start drawing faces.
Don't draw dicks on my face, guys.
I'm pretty sure most of us are separated by either. Well, actually, no clip. You and Clockwork might be in the same area.
Yes, I'm in.
No! Don't say where you are. Do not say where you are on YouTube.
Well, I've said it before in other hangouts.
Oh, okay. Well, then
I'm not giving out my town. I'm just saying the general area. I'm in North Georgia.
See, I live in. See, even if I told you my actual address, you would never believe me.
What, do you want a fucking volcano?
You can't tell me your address though, because then that would be.
I live in a
not
town
smart.
called Nigger.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Congratulations, we are now. His channel is going to.
We're not only
guidelines.
demonetized. We just got a fucking strike.
I'm gonna have to ask you to not say that again.
That's how you pronounce my town name. It's not actually Nigger. It's Nigeir.
Oh, I see. You must be one of those racists.
I'm sorry. I live here. How can I be racist?
You said
live
the
here.
N-word. I don't
my God.
think that you're black,
And
which means you don't have the right to say that.
Asshole.
You racist! You put a label
I'm
on
literally
me
just
that I wasn't black.
Did
Oh
you
my
just
God!
assume my race? I identify as an Apache helicopter.
SJW trigger.
Hey, goddammit, I'm an AK-47.
I identify as
No,
a red
no.
solo cup.
See, I've always identified as a dragon. The reason is because I like to dragon it up.
I am the bad
I've
luck.
always identified as the command no clip in every video game.
But yeah, like everyone. I'm a dragon. Accept my gender. I don't give a shit if you don't like it.
I identify
Man,
myself as an RGB keyboard.
I really want like a freaking sound clip of Hank Venture saying I'm the bat right now, but unfortunately I'm not that savvy.
I would love to have a debate with somebody on the Great Debate Community channel about Flat Earth.
You see,
I'm
I
not-
personally would love to have a debate about gender and sex, because what
There
annoys
are
me.
only two genders.
No. There are only two sexes. That is it. There is no if, buts, or what. There are only two sexes. Because when people say there's multiple sexes, I get really pissed off, because there isn't. You don't need more than two people of male and female sexes to produce another child. That's biology. You don't need a third person to produce another sex.
No, but what about hermaphrodites? Like
Are
people
they
who
part
are
of the
born.
two
Those
sexes?
are the
They're
myth.
outliers. They're
They're a
outliers. No,
They're
they're a real
outliers,
thing.
but
They're an outliers. But do you need them to procreate?
that
I mean-
doesn't have any bearing on whether or not there's
Yes.
more than two sexes.
I mean, by
Yes,
that
it does.
definition, you could say that if there's one person in the entire Earth that is born with like both, then therefore we have to make an exception for that one person
We have
by
to make
adding
sex.
another gender to or another sex to all the textbooks. No, you don't
Yeah.
have to do that.
That's the reason. The reason why, because sex is defined. I've always defined sex as what is required to produce another.
Yeah,
So,
but
another human,
always
which is
I've
a
always
male
defined
and a
sex as
female.
chromosomes.
reality of what the situation.
Because if you define sex by chromosomes, there's like 6 different variations, and that's the truth. Because there are some people who have the X, Y, Y's. I can't remember. It's fucking complicated, that one. But that's why I've always thought is a sex. Oh, you need a male and a female. You don't require a third sex to produce a child. Yes, there are,
Yes,
and I don't deny that there
the-
are people.
The question is not that we don't necessarily. It may not be a necessarily smart idea to define something only by its reproductive ability. That's the whole point.
No. Let me finish. I'm not talking about defining them. I'm just stating when people say there are multiple sexes, I get annoyed because that is a fallacy. There is only 2 sexes, and they're outliers. Well, not outliers. What do you call them? Like they're not meant
They're
to
the
exist.
exception, not the rule. Or
They were not
They're the
meant to
exception.
exist.
They're the
No,
exception.
wait a second. Don't.
That's
that-
not.
Yeah, but that's a really fucked up thing. Like just
They're a
writing
rare
it off
case.
as.
no, I'm
No,
not
yeah, they're
saying
a
that.
rare case, but it's a fucked up thing just to write it off as not meant
Well,
to exist. Well, they
I'm
exist
not
and they
saying
need to
that.
be accounted
They
for.
exist. They
Well,
need to be
I mean,
accountable, but
that-
they don't.
In
You don't go
textbook,
and say in a textbook that there are 15 sexes because there's 15 different genitalia. No.
No.
What is required?
So here's the thing. Here's
Actually,
the thing, right. If you look at, so as far as how things tend to be stereotyped as far as roles are concerned, there tends to be the two broad categories of male female, right? Like that's traditionally how it's been considered in most cultures, not all cultures. But
referring to, yeah.
But if we look at almost absolutely everything within humanity, right? Things exist on a spectrum. You have a spectrum of eye colors.
Yes.
You have a spectrum of hair colors. You have a spectrum of
Spectrum of gender.
And well, this is it, right? If you look at, okay, you have different heights that are men, different heights that are women, but you don't necessarily judge if they're a man or a woman based on the height alone, right? Like, it's not like one is carbon copy. So because there's also chromosomal variation, there's brain variation that we were previously unable to measure. There's genitalia variation. There's all these different things. It isn't unreasonable to say that gender as it's expressed is on a spectrum, sure. But I think that what's more useful, rather than trying to create infinite gradations of classes and then try to like ascribe legal things to it, in the same way that we don't say, oh, well, we have redheads, but this person has sort of copper hair and this is more auburn and this is this, so we're going to have different rights based on hair color. Like, we don't...
It's discrimination anyway. But
well, exactly.
I'm not saying that. I'm just stating there is only two sexes, because only two sexes are required to produce a baby.
The fact
that I don't care about what they're referring to. I'm talking about science here. I'm not talking about how they feel. I don't give a shit how they feel. Science doesn't give a shit how they feel. I am like that. I don't give a shit how you feel. I prefer to science. I prefer to do neurobiology. That's what I always refer to.
You need to, think about, though.
If their gender is different from their sex, I don't care. But if their sex, if they're stating that their sex is something that they are not, that is lying, and I do not like lying of that kind, because that is intellectually lying.
Here's a question.
That's not something you should be prepared to make a hard judgment on. Honestly, in my opinion.
Put down a sex on your birth certificate that is not your actual sex because you don't feel like that or something. Or should you be allowed to legally change your sex?
No, you should not be able to legally change your sex and document unless you have gone through the process of a sex change and have your sex fully changed to a male or a female respectively.
There is no such thing as fully changing your sex.
Yeah, I mean, you can change the genitalia.
I thought we had the technology to make.
But the chromosomes in almost all the cells are still whatever the original gender was or sex.
Yeah, but I thought we had the technology.
It's more of a cosmetic and function thing than it is actually changing the DNA or something.
Okay, so I don't really care about that. It doesn't matter how that looks. Like, e.g., if I saw a chick with tits, like I'm talking about big humulunga tits. I'm talking about like ginormous tits here.
Bahunkas.
Bahungas. Humungalungas. You know what I mean? And they said, I'm a man, and they have a very feminine voice, and they're saying, I'm a man. I would have an issue against that.
What if they were a man?
If they were a man and they were like actually being like that, I would be disturbed. Like, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't refer to them as female. I wouldn't refer to them as female. I would still respect their rights.
There are people who are born who are technically men, but develop female characteristics naturally because of hormonal imbalances.
And I'm disturbed by them. I am disturbed. But doesn't mean I wouldn't refer to them as a male or a female. I'd refer to them as what they want to be. Within reason, though.
So
this is within reason. My reason. That's my reasoning and my reasoning alone. I'm not saying it's the correct way. I'm not saying it's the right way or the wrong way. I'm just saying this is my reasoning because of the fact I wouldn't really.
The approach is to just deconstruct it, and rather than saying there's two genders or there's more than two genders, just say it's actually, for the most part, entirely irrelevant, right?
I agree.
Like,
that's what
the reality is, it really shouldn't matter how people dress or who they fuck or what they're in. If they're not hurting anybody, if they're not, if they're being generally decent human beings, not violating other people's consent, then we shouldn't really put stupid expectations on people. because it generally seems like a dumb thing to do that's usually arbitrary and driven by archaic religious bullshit and whatever.
Man,
So-
what's with airplane food? Am I right?
yeah.
No, don't talk about airplane food. Just don't.
Look, I spent $14 on some pasta and an American Airlines flight.
Whoa,
And
whoa,
the
whoa,
shit-
stop,
The
stop,
shit was
stop,
cold.
You had to pay for your food on an airliner?
What? You didn't know that when you fly coach?
You don't.
I have
I'm
flown.
Our fucking airlines.
I'm just
shit on
kidding.
us,
I've
man.
never even been on
What?
a
See, I fly Qantas, and like when you pay for your ticket, if you're doing like a ticket from say Perth to Melbourne, which is across the entirety of Australia, you don't need to pay for your food. Your food is complimentary.
It was a joke. I've never even been on a freaking airline like that before.
Oh, don't scare me.
Wait,
What's the thing going? America Airlines make you pay for your food?
I don't
on the
understand.
flight?
It's not an aeroplane. There's no O. We didn't name it after a fucking longbow that launches something off a fucking string. Like,
Listen here, Buster. I've been in lots of aeroplanes in my day.
there's no O. You've been in an airplane.
Can we get?
I've been in an aeroplane.
No.
You
It's
said,
just
oh.
No.
It's just his
Red
accent.
lung.
Leave it alone before you kill yourself.
Listen here, Buster. You got a problem with me because I'm from the South.
He's from Texas, all right?
No,
Let
I've
him
got a
be.
problem
Let
with
him
the O.
be.
You keep putting in airplane. The salt
Okay.
has nothing to do with it.
Okay, Buster. You know what?
Say error. Say
I'm
error.
absolutely tired of you making fun of me.
Are you doing this on purpose, or is this actually your accent? I have to ask.
What are you talking about on purpose?
I mean, he is throwing it on hard now, but
Yeah,
He's
I'm not
obviously
sure if he's
doing it
doing this
on
on purpose or not now.
I
And I
thought
don't know
was
whether to make
making it
jokes or not.
abundantly clear that this was a joke.
No.
the scary
See,
part is it's halfway.
You know what?
Like for me,
Hey.
you gotta remember, for me, I don't pick up on jokes that well. Like I'm the sort of person that would like, if someone came up to me and was like, ha ha ha, and sort of punched me in the shoulder, I'd just sucker punch them in the face straight away and go, why the fuck did you punch me?
Hey,
Sort of person I am.
here's something that has no like.
No wonder
meaning.
you're not allowed in Perth.
No, I'm allowed in Perth. I'm just not allowed in the cinemas in Perth, in any cinema in Perth. I have been called on the police multiple times in cinemas because of some person shining a torch in my eye directly in front of my face and screaming at me to get out because I farted. But then again,
Wow.
ooh,
Okay,
I had to admit though, the fart was worth it. It was worth it.
On this note, I'm gonna head out of here, guys. But it's been a fun conversation.
Well, you have a good night then.
Well, let's not jump to labeling things.
Later, hard.
I don't know what's going on now. Okay, see you later, Clockwork.
We've gone off the
Or
goddamn.
See you later.
Rex.
Wait,
See you later, Hart.
someone give us
Yeah,
a topic.
you guys too.
Here's a
later, dude.
topic. You ready?
A proper
It's gonna
topic.
blow
Of course.
it's gonna blow your mind, Buster. The topic is flat Earth.
No.
God
The
damn.
topic is
Not here.
the
No.
top. The topic is the Minecraft.
Not here. No.
I have to agree with Rex. Yeah, no. Fuck that
The
shit.
topic is sports cars.
Nah.
Okay.
I really don't know enough about the subject. Do you know enough about the subject, Rex?
Nope.
Okay.
The topic is
The topic is why does he keep saying the topic
the
is?
topic is. Hey, Killer, why don't you pick the topic?
Oh, don't do that. Rex, pick the topic.
God damn, we'll go back to fucking AI. No.
No. Fuck no. I don't want to go back to AI. Hell no. I'm done with AI.
I think we've kind of exhausted our creative outlets.
we
There's
have.
no more for us to discuss.
We could talk about Donald Trump if we wanted to.
God damn.
Wrong.
Fuck that guy.
SJWs.
Fuck them too.
Just assume my gender.
I knew someone would say that. Feminism.
Feminism
that.
is unnecessary.
I agree.
Oh, the whole fucking feminism thing. Yeah.
Well, third wave.
I mean,
Third
we got-
wave. Third wave and onwards. Agreed. They should be fucked off.
Let's have a conversation about quantum mechanics. Fine. Fine.
Like talking about quantum mechanics.
silence.
You can have
It's
a
like-
conversation about quantum mechanics.
Look,
Oh god!
I
need
know
to
we can
research
talk
for that
about.
one.
This has got to be something that we all know about. Because if we don't, I'm kind of upset.
Be fucking upset.
You want to talk about? I can't think of anything to talk about.
Let's talk about memory and how it lapses.
Wait,
Oh yeah.
y'all want to hear me beatbox?
One second, guys. Have you guys ever
Not
heard of
mad
the
at you,
glitch in the program?
I actually have to go too here, pretty much. So
Oh, do you guys both have to go?
the topic is it's gonna go on more than likely without me.
It's almost 4 in the morning where I live.
It depends
It's
what Clockwork wants to
almost
do.
5 in the morning where I live.
Holy
How long
shit!
has this been going on for? I
Like
lost track.
I like
a
to.
long time.
Yeah, I think I'm about gonna end it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should. I think we've exhausted all topics at hand.
Well, I guess I'm gonna hop out. I have work at 2.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair
Just a
enough.
question. Just for sake of reference, what is my name coming up as? I have to ask this.
Killer.
Wonderful! It came out with the correct name.
But you don't have a profile picture yet.
There's a reason for that. There is a very good
Because you
reason for
suck.
that.
It's because
No,
you
because my profile picture, they don't like it.
Oh, well, okay. Fair.
My one's a bit. I've got two. I've had one that I've been using in public. The other one is a bit gory, and I got it. This is my actual one because of the fact the one I was using in public is currently copyrighted by another person. I don't own it in any way, shape, or form,
Oh, okay.
and I'd rather not use that for certain things like YouTube and stuff like that, where they can demonetize me due to the fact that I have that picture on usage.
Well,
Okay.
And they won't use
I'm
it.
gonna.
I'm
hop
gonna
out
go
of
from
here.
left to right, say your piece, and then get the fuck out. McGinnis.
Well, I just want to say I'm sorry that we got a little off topic with what we were talking about, and moose are dangerous, eh?
You broke him. You broke.
I burped and coughed at the same time. No, fair
God.
enough, McGinnis. Thanks for coming in. Take care. Okay, Killer, you're next.
Killer.
Oh, I'm next, am I?
Yes.
Say your piece.
Well, so
then get
long
the
and
fuck out.
thanks for all the fish.
Fair enough.
Okay. Are y'all ready?
Okay, no clip. Say your piece and then get the fuck out.
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war.
God damn it, man.
5, 6, 7, 8. Hurry up. Masturbate.
I knew you were gonna do something
Oh, he
like
went
that.
there. Oh, he went there.
Oh
Damn right.
God, this guy.
Damn right, brother. About to pack me a fat Copenhagen.
Anyway, moving on. All right, bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
All right, next time, bring the hookers and blow. See you guys later.